What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Alex Vansant, representing Voltage Games, and this weekend at the ARG 20K, it was tea time once again for the first time in a very long time. So that was pretty cool. I got top 32 with my Bujin deck. And first I want to go over the thought process of how that even happened. So first of all, I wasn't even going to play. I was going to stay back at the shop, run inventory, keep doing stuff. But it had been a really stressful week, and I decided last minute that I was actually going to show up and play. Though I hadn't touched a card, well, I touch cards every day, but I didn't pick up a deck in something like 4 or 5 months. So the game has completely changed since then, believe it or not. I mean, there weren't Sylvans or anything else like that. And I really didn't, last time I played, really, I guess, was Chicago, but I didn't even really play in Chicago. I played in Berlin, would probably be the last time I really even thought to play. I play tested a little for that. I was playing Mermails at the time. So, that was Fire Fist format, and coming in is a completely different format now. I didn't really play through artifacts or anything like that. So I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't really know how to play any the decks that were in the format, so I didn't really want to play Mermails again either. So I looked at playing gadgets. So I was going to play gadgets. I was just going to play Gadget Artifact Traptics, and it was just really fragile. It was a glass cannon, and then I tried to do pendulum summoning, but again, understand this is the Thursday before the event, and I was pretty much like, well, I don't want to also learn how to pendulum summon, so I'm just going to hope no one does that to me, learn how to do that later, and just not do that at all. So instead, Jeff was just like, just play Bujins. That's what I'm going to play. And I was just like, that seems super easy. Why don't I just play Bujins? Man, that was just wrong, but okay. Anyways, Jeff kind of helped me put together a deck at the time, and I ended up tinkering with it, and it was a little bit different than what Jeff ran. I wasn't even at I didn't even know that Spellbooks won the night before. I had no idea. I didn't even show up until that morning. So it was pretty cool. I did play the first 2 rounds, so I legitimately played 11 rounds. It was pretty cool. So without further ado, I'm going to talk about the deck right now. First monsters, there were 3 Yamatos, obviously. I'd play 5 if I could. 3 Cranes. There's good. I actually sided 1 out pretty often. I just did. I guess I'll leave them like this. I haven't done a deck profile in a while. 2 Mikazuchis. The special summon is super relevant. Actually, the 1900 is also randomly really relevant too when dealing with a lot of decks that bring out a lot of guys for 18 Infernities and other things. The 19s, he's beefy, especially with Tenkies. 2 Turtles. This card was really good. It really didn't matter that they errated him, so he doesn't work in the damage step. You just have to use your head more than your helmet more often than not, especially when playing against things like hands. You can't just swing into them, and you have to just be wary of when they're going to do them. Just don't go leaving your guys and attack when they're going to bring out an ice hand willy-nilly. You play cards around. You have ways to deal with that anyway. So, I mean, when they do go for the fire hand, you should be able to, when they declare attack, hair your monster, and you'll be fine. You'll be all right. So, speaking of hair, 2 of him. I ran out of hair a lot. I almost wish I played 3, but I don't know what I would cut for it. Harume, I was going to play 2. I cut the second Harume for a second Mikazuchi. I think I was just being ignorant. I think I should just play 2 and 2 Mikazuchis. I loved it. I loved having lots of monsters, and I loved just forcing people to waste their stuff on these guys right here and this guy right here, Quillen, and then right after that being able to drop, Harume the next turn, Harume that turn, or Mikazuchi the next turn, or Yamato. Finally Yamato. I didn't bring out Yamato first turn very often unless I felt like it was safe. If I had other ways to bait it out, I would bait it out and then drop Yamato. Whether that be Bottomless or whatever else. Book of Moon was a really popular way to, apparently this weekend, to stop my Yamatos, but Quillen was amazing. Pop's Decree, which is really relevant in the mirror match. This card's really good. I almost wish I played 2. I wouldn't play 2, but this card was just the bee's knees. This card's real good. And then, of course, Honest, which is just, that card is silly, especially with Susanoo. Okay, put these guys away for a little bit. Next up, the spells. So, 3 Tenkies. That card's the nuts. 3 Bujin Carnations. That card's the nuts. 3 Upstart Goblin. That was a little different from Jeff, but I really wanted to get to my cards as fast as possible. Mine was a little bit more aggressive, I think, than Jeff's deck was. And I wanted to just get in there, get to my Yamatos very quickly, get to my Kaiser Coliseum very quickly. That just helped a lot. Sorry, I'm trying to get these so that you guys can see them properly, I guess. I don't know, this is weird. Like, I literally had trouble holding on to my cards because I just didn't do it in so long. 2 Dualities. I would play 3 if I could go back, but I really like 3. I don't want to play 50 cards, though, but this is 40 cards. The Dualities are just really good. Sometimes you just need to go off, though. My deck was very aggressive, so I just wanted to swing in as often as I can and shorten that game and put them on the clock and make them waste their resources. And if they want to go to a grind, we'll go to a grind, and I'm always going to win the grind. So if we go to a grind, I'm getting pluses every turn. I have the bigger monsters. It's just you don't want to go to a grind against this deck. But against those bad matchups like Sylvans, you want to be able to just, you know, swing for the fences as early as you can to keep them off of that soul charge and beat them up as soon as you can. So we got a special summon. 2 Kaiser Coliseum. This is the helmet card. This is the big floodgate. This is what everyone's afraid of. Everyone's afraid of Yamato Kaiser. But you don't want to have too many, so 2's enough. You play lots of cards to get there. And, I mean, if you play Kaiser Coliseum with Yamato on the field, good night, nurse. That's usually it. And then you don't have to do a lot of thinking. But if you don't open with this card, this deck involves a lot more than people normally give it credit for. Book of Moon. This card's super versatile. Very good. Much good. Very book. Lots of moon. I don't know. Wow. 3 Fiendish Chain. 2 Wiretap. Much good. Very tap. 2 Deep Prisons. This card was really good too. People just didn't see it coming. It's like, well, you know, oh, you're playing all these cranes and stuff. Why would you play with Deep Prison? I mean, hands. And there's a lot of other things that just helps you deal with. Torrential Tribute. Obviously. Bottomless Trap Hole. It's the nuts. Solemn Warning. And last is Compulsory. Jeff cut is compulsory, but I kept it. It's super aggressive. It lets you keep that monster in your hand. You know, sometimes you just need it. Sometimes they do this or that to it, and you can just keep that. But also, it gets rid of a lot of monsters that you normally just can't deal with. You know, if they're parking like a big old monster in defense mode, you can bounce back to the extra deck. You can slow people down a lot with this card. And honestly, honestly, this is gonna sound ignorant, but it matches like against Sylvans and stuff where you gotta put in some damage and get ahead before they soul charge you. They summon that Curry Bandit, pow, compulse to their hand, and swing for the fences next turn because you're gonna put them back a turn and you gotta slow them down somehow. And compulses, you know, that way. But everyone exeses, everyone synchros, you know. And when they see that striking point, you can compulse your way out of any kind of problems. It's the most versatile chainable trap. It's not always a plus, but you have a lot of those. Right now, it might not be the best card in the world, but this card I think is hands down one of the best trap cards you can play in a format. This might not be its format, but that card's really good. I'll move on to the extra deck. Exciton Knight, Steel Swarm Roach, Peladon Ammo, Black Ship, Abyss Dweller, Ragnar Zero, Diamond Dyer, Heartland Draco, Honor Arc, Rhapsody and Berserk, Tsukiyomi, Kaigut Sushi, and 3 Susanowos. So, this is the exact same extra deck as Jeff. I absolutely wish I was playing Gaiga Cowboy. It would have been relevant lots of times. I probably would have picked up an extra win had I had it. It's super good. I would have cut Steel Storm Roach for it. I do not agree with cutting Tsukiyomi for it. I actually really liked this card. This card won me some matches. I did bring this card out. You know, sometimes it's relevant to pitch that stupid card in your hand to draw 2 more, possibly traps. to handle something that you know is going to try to flood you. You know they're gonna soul charge soon. You know something is coming. You got to Tsukiyomi them. Also, Tsukiyomi, it resolves when it's removed from the field and it brings something else back. So, you know, it helps get around Fate. It helps get around Tiara Masu. And yes, it's obnoxious when they Fate you. You exhausted 2 monsters to bring this thing out, but, you know, if you're going to swing with 2 monsters, you know, sometimes it's better to leave the 2 monsters, but, you know, you got to get through your deck. So Tsukiyomi for more cards, it'll bring back your Yamato the next turn, and you just got to keep pushing into those decks. You just have to keep slicing and dicing and smashing them for 2,000 over and over and over again until, you know, you got to be all over them. You can't sit there and not attack. You got to beat them up. And then there's some decks that you do want to sit back and just outgrind, but that's not him. That's all about him. Susanoo, MVP of the deck. I dare say better than Yamato. This card's the nuts. Rhapsody Berserk, I had no idea what this card did. I had to read it and be like, oh, this is good. This card single-handedly won me a lot of games. Steel Storm Roach, I just get this out of here. Heartland Draco won me a feature match. This card's really good. Diamond Dyer, because you Bujin Carnation into it. Ragnar Zero I didn't use, but it's really good. Dweller's the nuts. Black Ship I used. Exton I used. Starliege I did use. Meh. It's really good. It's not, meh doesn't mean it's not good. Honor Arc, obviously, and I think this card is really good. Kaiken Sushi. It's just relevant. It's real beefy, and if you're feeling ballsy, it's nuts. So, side deck: 3 Maxis, 3 MSTs, 2 Debunk, 2 Soul Release, 2 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, Dark Hole, Malevolent Catastrophe, and Mind Control. I started in the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror because I've never been more afraid of a deck than Infernities. I hate that deck. Super scary. I don't like that it's a deck at all. I've never been able to really... I don't know. They always go off on me, whether it's this format or before when the Shiny Darkness was released or whatever. I just hate that deck. Personally, I just hate playing against it. It's really frustrating. You know, I don't know. Anything that I can bring in against them, I will. Maxi, obviously, just a really good card. You got to play it inside at least. MST, same thing. Knock out those floodgates. Half the time, I would bring in 3 MSTs for the upstarts automatically, almost no matter what I was playing, except for like Lightsworn and some other things, to get rid of the Decree, to get rid of the, you know, Defissure, whatever they're bringing in. Zombie World. There's a lot of cards that just ruin your day, so MST is a good one. Debunk was pretty good too. I brought it in a lot. Soul Release, same thing. In the mirror match, this card is really good. Against Lightsworn, this card is really good. There's like against Dragons, this card is really good. There's a lot of stuff, you know, this card's really good against, so. Mind Control, like Jeff said, this card should be banned. This card is just broken. The only reason it's not mained is because not everyone's playing level 4s. But if you're playing level 4s and you might just leave one on the field, your day is going to get real bad. Catastrophe is pretty broke when you get it off. I had trouble resolving it. So I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. I like it. I don't know if this is the deck for Catastrophe, though. I think it's a little win more, and it's win more against decks that you're already beating. I'm very against siding cards that you don't necessarily need to side against decks that you already beat, i.e., you know, Hat. You should always beat Hat. The Space Typhoon should be enough. The Catastrophe, I think, was a little bit overkill. I love this card, maybe not in this deck. Jeff disagrees. I don't know. You should probably listen to him. Dark Hole. This card's just good. You have to deal with established boards, and you can't. So, and then obviously for the one match that this card is good against, it's really good against them. So, you know, as early as you can, shadow them. But yeah, that was my side deck. But if I talk for a second about coming back into the game, I threw my Roach over here. I'll bring it back. If I could talk a little bit about coming back into the game and what that was like, it was really weird. I had to read every card. I just, like, decks are just so fast and weird now. I just didn't know what they did. Like, Sylvans. Weird. I did make a lot of big mistakes. I'm not going to lie. You know, I just didn't know what certain cards did. So, you know, my thought process in doing everything I did was good. It was solid. It was sound. Every move that I made had a purpose. You know, I was thinking turns ahead. I was, you know, I knew what they had. I just didn't know what they did. So, I knew what they did, but I didn't know what it did. So, you know, that I think lost me a couple games. Had I known that, I wouldn't have been as big of a problem. I think I would have done even better than I did. But you know, this really made me want to start playing a little bit more. Not as much as like Jeff or some of the others, but you know, or as much as I did in the past. But I will probably come back to play a little bit. I thought that I wouldn't, and I would just completely take the business role. And you know, that's what I'm kind of known for now. But you know, this was a lot of fun, and what reminded me that I still like to play is that, you know, I was like, it all came back to me very quickly, and that's how I felt when I came back to play Mirror Mills. I hadn't played in a year and a half, really just got a year, but it was like it's like riding a bike. Once you know the fundamentals of the game, you have a huge advantage, and a lot of those big fundamentals that the players from the past know, a lot of the newer players don't know, and you just reveal it when you draft in the top 16 of a YCS. You know, that takes there's more skill in draft than there is in any other format by leaps and bounds, and you take all those fundamentals and you put them into play. Everything from, you know, creating something that people have to deal with, not wasting your resources, making your opponent waste resources on things that you have very little invested into, finding striking points, obviously just advantage, momentum, all those little things like that, field presence. You know, those are really important things that a lot of people just sometimes forget. And people, you know, when I see striking points and stuff, I'm saying that sometimes there's a time where if you see that your opponent is, you know, struggling, get them. Like that's your shot to win, and you take that shot every time because you don't know what they're about to draw, but you know what they have. So once you figure out what they have, beat them up and take advantage of that. Don't ever let it go to, you know, the next turn because you don't know what's going to happen next turn. But you should have a pretty good idea what they have now. You know, a lot of mind games, a lot of mental strategy with my opponents. You know, I read everything, but I read everything honestly to disguise what I didn't know. I knew what a lot of cards did, but there were a few that I didn't. So when I would read everything because I would A, just refresh myself, and B, it disguised what I actually just didn't know. And I asked a lot of questions all the time about this and that and this and that because it might come up. So, you know, after the matches I was asking questions about, you know, things. So I knew what was going to be bad and it was going to be good matchups just from talking to people ahead of time. And just kind of mentally figuring it out. I did absolutely no play testing for this event. My play testing was round 1, and then round 2, and then round 3. But, you know, I kept trucking each match, just basic fundamental Yu-Gi-Oh! And this deck played fundamental Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, you summon the hair, and then you set your back rows. The first battle is to deal with that hair in your back rows. Okay, now comes Yamato. Now they have to deal with that. Okay, you dealt with Yamato. Bujin Incarnation. Now deal with that. And slowly you're grinding them down. You're taking it away from them and taking advantage away from them. And you know, you're getting a free card into your graveyard all the time. You're playing out of your graveyard. Your monsters are too big. You're making their cards do nothing. And that's awesome. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun coming back. I wouldn't say I was at the top of my game, but it feels pretty good to know that I wasn't at 100% and I was able to still hang in there. So I do kind of want to start playing a little bit more than I had. And who knows, I might just hop another couple events. So I don't know, maybe I'll make some strategy videos in the end. More about coming back to the game. But play lots of mental games. It's all up here. And one more thing, and this is big. And actually Steven's holding the camera and he reminded me of this the other day. And you know, I never really thought about it, but I haven't thought about it in a while, I should say. Don't give your opponent too much respect. You no matter who they are, it just doesn't matter who they are. They're just your opponent. And you can't always assume that they're going to make the best play. You can't always assume that they're going to have the nuts down. You can't always assume that they're going to have certain cards that you're reading down. Be aware of those cards that you can lose to in that moment, but don't guarantee yourself that they have them. You know, if you're more afraid that they're going to explode later on from a card you know that they have, ignore that the cards that you think that they might have face down. You got to go. And I think that was one of the most important parts of this weekend was that I didn't assume anything. Maybe it was just because I didn't know what the cards did. But at the time, I just didn't assume that I was going to lose. I never thought for a second that I was going to lose any match, except for my Infinity matchup. That was pretty rough. I always just came into the matches assuming I could just win. And I didn't assume that anyone had a better chance of winning than I did. And when you start thinking that your opponent is better than you are, and that you're going to lose, you are going to lose. You know, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So if you go into a match with that mindset that your opponent is better than you, you're going to fall for everything. Everything that they do to you, they're just going to beat you up, and they can like smell it. But if you think you're going to win, you're more likely to win. So as silly as that is to say, just kind of think about that. Think about when you're playing personally. Think about your matches when you go into a match knowing, oh, I'm going to crush this guy. And you sit down, you're probably going to do it. And your opponent will sense that radiating off of you almost. And you'll put the fear into them as to what they're going to do. But don't let them put the fear into you, because you shouldn't be scared. You know, it's just a game. You have nothing to lose. And just play like you are the best, because you might just be someday. So, all right, that's all I have to say. I might be coming back sometime soon. Check out our store. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yeah.